How's it going tonight?
Salut tout le monde.
So we're going to do the first part of the Q&A with Bertrand Hébert. We're going to do it in English so everybody can understand. So Bert, to start off, how did you get involved in the wrestling business?
I mean, I was the correspondent for Pro Wrestling Illustrated for Montreal in the early 80s, and from there I was able to connect with the promotion in Lanaudière, lutte Lanaudière, that I rebaptized NCW, or Northern Championship Wrestling. So there's a few fans from back in the days here.
Yeah.
So from there I became the booker and the promoter, and I also did some referee, and I was a manager also. So that was the early start. I did that for about 8 years. Then I worked for Paul Leduc, FLQ, and I worked with Jacques Rougeau as well for International Wrestling in 2000 and different things of that nature.
Why are you smiling so much in Jacques Rougeau?
I'm trying to be nice. I'm a diplomat.
I'm going to tell Jacques we're cutting him down.
Never. That's my partner.
True, yeah. We're not getting that tonight, but yeah.
Can you tell us your first meeting with Mr. Pat Patterson?
Well, I mean that's really fun, because when we did the TOW wrestling with Sylvain Grenier and Marc Blondin, we were getting that pilot for RDS television, and they involved Pat because, you know, Sylvain was like a son for Pat, and Marc had worked with Pat for a long time. So they brought Pat in for a meeting, for basically booking meeting. So we went over everything, and at that time, we just had wrote the first book, Mad Dogs, Midgets, and Screwjobs, and in that book, you know, Pat really liked what we wrote about him.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, his story was, you know, they want me to write a book, but, you know, I fired the first writer.
Okay.
And I don't really like the second one they assigned to me. So that stayed like that, and that's the first time we met. And then, you know, he came in, and I actually produced Pat Patterson for the brunch segment that we did on French television for the pilot. So that was amazing. And from there, he told me basically, okay, I'm going to give your name so that you can be the writer. So that took forever. I mean, basically, you know, you guys probably know Titan's time. So they told me, well, we're bringing you in for an interview, and we'll make the decision this week. So they flew me to Titan Tower to do the interview with Kevin Dunn about doing the book with Pat. And, okay, this week we'll have a decision. So 7 months later, someone called me, and they had me do another interview, and then I got the job.
Okay.
So, you know, but I got the job, but Pat called me first, who told me I was getting the job. So it was kind of weird. From there, it was a fantastic experience to work with him, because he didn't want to have a writer that would just, you know, do one interview and then make the rest up.
Yeah.
So we worked together 6 months. 14 different interview sessions. And, you know, basically what's not in the book is what Pat didn't remember. Okay. So it was amazing. And it was before he started to lose a lot of his memories. So we were able still to get a lot of good stuff, and, you know, very interesting story. And after that, we traveled the world promoting the book. We did the big event in New York, but we went to Minneapolis together. We went to England, and we did the first Chris Jericho cruise. So
okay, yeah.
It was quite the experience.
Yeah.
What's your best Pat Patterson story?
I mean, traveling with Pat was an experience. So, I mean, one of his favorite is going through the airport, you know, and then woof, woof, and then he's like looking for where's the dog? I heard a dog, and he's getting like 1, 2, 3 people involved in the where's the dog, and you're like because he's not doing it once, but multiple times. So that's the classic, but I mean, and he loved each time we were like going to the restaurant or waiting in line, is tell the person in front of him, or it's like, last night in the hotel room, they keep banging on my door and they keep waking me up and I couldn't sleep. So I stood up and I let her out of the room. But he would do that in every line, and obviously, I mean, it's crazy because he would like make up a whole story about letting his wife out of the room, and he would like entertain himself so much doing that whole show for like that one or two people in front of us, and his goal was always to get a reaction out of me, so that I would like feel uncomfortable or be mad or anything, and I know so everything. So that he loved, but he kept on trying on the cruise. It was like we had a friend with us, and he was like an ice cold, and he loved it. He couldn't break me. So that was part of the experience, because he really wanted a writer that would spend time with him and go to the bar with him and sing karaoke with him. So that's amazing. There's one night we went out in Florida where he actually signed the song in French by Alice Lobby, Laissez-moi encore chanter. And that's one of my favorite Pat Patterson moments, because I could have sworn he said, "Let me still wrestle," because it was all about, being able to perform again in front of the public. There was like 5 people in the bar, but he was so amazing singing. That was a great experience too. And I was on the last world tour of Pat Patterson promoting the book, so that was fun.
Awesome. So out of all the books that you wrote, is there one that was the most tough to write? Which one was it?
Difficult. I mean, probably the first one, because it took 5 years putting it together and then getting it published. Once you get published, then they actually believe you can actually put out a book. So it gets easier, actually. So it was getting the published part that was difficult with the first one, with Madame and Screwjob. And strangely enough, it's still staying that we had to get published in English to talk about the history of Quebec wrestling.
Yeah.
And then, like that, we had a French publisher.
Okay.
That had already turned us down before, so.
All right. You all know your son is now in the wrestling business. My good guy is Zach Patterson.
Yeah, the diamond.
Diamond, the only diamond in Quebec. So
He's not paying you for that, Oh
yeah, you're paying me for that. For
sure?
Yeah.
Sure.
He already wrestled Jay White, I think it's 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And now he's going to wrestle Matt Riddle. Can you tell us about pretty big career already for Zach Patterson?
I'm slowly becoming Zach's dad instead of Zach's being my son. So that's kind of different, but it's cool. I mean, he loved wrestling since he was this tall, and he, I was involved with NCW, so he grew up around the business and around the guys. So most of them took to him right away, and he worked so hard. I mean, he was in the gym 5 years before he even put on a pair of boots and started his training. So from there, it's just been quite the ride. The match with Jay White was quite the experience. He didn't sleep for 24 hours before it.
I can imagine.
And hopefully, in Quebec City, June 15th for that match at the Pavillon de Jeunesse for NSPW with Matt Riddle. I mean, he's going to give everything he has, and hopefully, we'll keep on getting noticed. So that's the name of the game. We're going to get noticed.
What's the next step for him?
Right, I think the next step would be to get the long-term booking in Japan or in Europe. He'll get different experience, get his name out there further than Canada and East Coast of the US. That's the next step. That's the hard step, but we're working on it.
He already wrestled to Ring of Honor recently, so.
Yeah, he got booked. It was like the first time with all of them. So he had the match with Ring of Honor on that week. So I think it went pretty well. I actually saw the match with Commentary last night, so it's already out. On the club, I believe. So it was. I think he did pretty good. And he actually had minutes in that match to get himself noticed. Because the last time they had about 2 minutes.
I think it's Toronto. Huh?
Yeah, the last time was out in Toronto. It was a 3-against-3, and it lasted. He was in there 20 seconds, and it was over. Now he had at least a good 5 minutes, so I think he was able to show off a little bit. So that's good. So he's still young. He's going to turn 24 this summer.
Wow,
So.
that's insane. Yeah.
And don't forget, he arrested Ronda Rousey, DJ.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
You have any other sons coming up in the business, or?
Not yet, but I have another son that dreams of wrestling. So
yeah. What would you think would be like
your shock school?
No.
What thing would you like for Quebec wrestling to get better at in the next year or two?
Quebec wrestling in general?
In general, yeah.
I mean,
your wish.
My wish is always that we get better.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the phrase that says support indie wrestling, but I like support good indie wrestling.
Yeah, true.
So it's trying to be better, get better. People get in the gym, get some good looking gear, get good production values on your shows, things of that nature. I mean, it's the name of the game. I mean, I was at WrestleMania this year. The spectacle in itself, but how the storyline and everything came together. I mean, that Cody storyline, they struck gold and they built on it so much. That sight of relief in the stadium when he finally did win, that was real. So, and that's what we need to strive for. We, present something that feels real, that blurs that line between fiction and reality.
And we're talking about the next book. What's the next book for us?
That's going to be quite the book. It's going to be, I mean, unless it changes, it's going to be Who Killed Dino Bravo.
Oh, okay. Everybody's in a hush now all of a sudden.
We've been sleeping on that for 10 years.
Okay.
When we started the promotion for this book, we actually met someone at a show in Montreal. Right, the guy you met last night, who told me you got your number to speak about Dino. Yeah, and 10 years ago, the guy comes up to us and he tells us, well, I know who did it. And from there, the past 10 years, we've been working on that clue and that information. So we do have some answers. The thing is what our lawyers are going to allow us to say or not say, but we have a much clearer picture of what happened back then. And I mean, we have full support from the family, so hopefully we'll have different, it's going to be a different book because it's going to be built around the true crime story.
You're going to get into all that because that's some pretty heavy shit you're talking about.
Yeah.
You're not worried about anything because I know that there's still a big problem.
There's only one guy left that's still alive.
And he's not connected no more.
That's what we need to figure out. But we're 2 years away from the book. So yeah, I know. I don't drive a car, so I feel safe. But Pat, my partner, feels less safe. Yes. Yeah, I mean, we've heard stories so far where Dino could go into any bar, drink for free, and people would try him, but only once, and then it was over. So and you knew him after the heel turn and after but when he was in the early '80s, the big star in Montreal, he was Hulk Hogan in that market. It was amazing. And
Larry's a true tough guy
too. Yeah. And that's going to be different and fun. And I loved Dino when I was young, and it's just something. It's like the Andrew the Giant book, to be able to give more than just the character, to have a little bit what was André Wismoff's life? Okay, who was Adolfo Luciano and all of that, and what happened to Dino Bravo in the end? I think that's something that's a story that needs to be told.
Sounds great. Wait to hear it.
Yeah.
See the book.
For sure.
Anybody has questions for Bertrand? Anybody qui a des questions pour Bertrand Hébert? Anybody?
From France to here.
Brian's got a question for Bert.
That's what he told me.
You got a question for Bert?
I was just asking about Andre.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Andre did come here first in America, but after that, I mean, he was already a major star in France, and he was actually a very, very good wrestler. Like, he was trained classic. You know, he could do anything. Yeah, and when he came here, I mean, he became here a very big star, and he jump-started the Grand Prix wrestling as an opposition to the other territory, which was the As de lutte of the Russo family. And from there, I mean, they were drawing on television. 2 million people were watching wrestling every week during that time.
He would go to all over the country as the big star.
Yeah.
All the other countries besides America and from Canada, and he was all over the world. Because of his size, and he drew a big following in Japan also.
Yeah. I mean, Andre was an attraction like no others. And I think we give him a little justice in the book of more than what just people knew on the outside. We talked to a lot of people from Mean Gene to Rick Martel to everybody that we had met over the last 10 years of doing those books, and it was important to, you know, bring something more than what was already out there. So, and you know, the pictures as well. There's a lot of pictures that I've never seen the light of days before, and that's part of the fun of getting those books out.
How old were you when you did this? And you got Mad Dog on there too.
Yeah, we did this one 10 years ago, so that was like 93 that came out. And was it 2013? I'm sorry, 2013. 2013. So I was 42. I'm 52 now.
That's awesome. You learn about some good characters, right?
Yeah, I mean, yes. There is no more proudest moment in my life than when Pat Patterson told me that I knew wrestling. So after that, I'm good. I can be tired. So after that, I was good. So from there, it's just, you know, it's a passion. I mean, I've been a fan for over 40 years. I love this. And I want to learn more every time I'm doing something. So the books just came in at the right time for me to do something different than the business itself, and we've made some great connection through the years and build on you know, a good credibility with guys. So it's fun when you call someone, and you know, Mean Gene came to Comic-Con in Montreal. Some people saw us there. And after that, we had the interview about Andre, and he was so open about it and so happy to talk to us. And so it's still, Rick Martel called me this morning, and I'm still like, oh, Rick is calling. It's still like, you know, he was my idol, and now he's calling me on a Saturday morning. So it's kind of weird, but it's a sign of respect that those guys have that kind of connection to us now. Or when Pat was like, he's like texting me from the gorilla position at Raw and said, well, how does the show look on TV?
Looks like a TV show.
Yeah. You know, it's like, whoa, okay, that's a good compliment, and it was a lot of fun. And I never took it for granted, and it's just, you know, I mean, like I said, I mean, I'm good. I think I'm good. I wish my son the best in what he wants to do, because he loves it so much and he wants to make it a success. For me, I accomplished so much more than I ever thought possible at some point. So, you know, I'm really proud of what we did. I really shoot for the next book to be very special because we do have that answer. So what can we put out there? That's going to be a big thing because, you know, I remember that morning when Dino was killed and it was everywhere in the papers, everywhere on television. And we went years thinking, well, we'll never know. And you know, that answer dropped on us 10 years ago, and we were able to do interviews and ask questions and poke around and get more info and confirm stuff and spoke with people who work with Dino in that cigarette business. So it's like, okay, we're like over 30 years after. Okay, maybe there is time to get some answers out there.
Well, I'd like to thank you for this interview. It was really quick and really fun. So thank you very much. People buy his books. They're great. There's more coming up. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Entre deux chaises de métal, as they do have some questions for Jerry and Brian. And if you guys got some questions, please don't be shy and come up and ask Jerry and Brian. Take it away, Mr. Christie.
So thank you guys for being here tonight. This place at the Melrose. My first question would be to you guys. We all know how Harry met Sally, and you know how Brian met Jerry.
10 years old. We played on the same team together. So he was first baseman, I was left field. And we've been friends ever since. So since 10 years old. So we're 60 now in Whitehall, Styles, PA. So it's a little town out the skirts of Whitehall, which is the Lehigh Valley. But we know each other a long time, and before that, our grandfathers used to hang out when they were in the 30s. Drove motorcycles together, so it skipped the generation and we got back together. You know, it's pretty cool that our grandfathers were good friends back in the 30s and skipped. So his family was my family, and so it's been a long thing. So no one put us together. You know, we were friends for a long time. And Matt Millen was a good friend of ours, and our parents, his parents and my parents went to Matt because we were getting in a lot of trouble. We both got back in the area in our 20s, early 20s, and Matt said, you know, keep on going like that, you're going to get thrown in jail. Why don't you try that pro wrestling? And me and Cy bugged George the Animal so much that he had Stuka and Mr. Wonderful and Cowboy Bob Orton to stretch us, and we were working. So when we couldn't go and meet him, he called us and said, if you want to serious, you go to Bergania School. And that's where we went, Minneapolis, in 1985. Went to the school, and the rest is history, brother. Here we are, we're still living.
Yeah. Were you guys, how much time did it take for you guys to know that you like wrestling? Were you fans before getting into the business or no?
No, yeah, we used to watch wrestling all the time.
Okay.
We used to shoot in Hamburg TV matches back in the 70s. So Captain Lou Albano, the Wild Samoans. You're talking about, you know, superstar Billy Graham, Bob Backlund was champion. You know, Bruno days. I mean, all the way back to Bruno and Pedro Morales in 1972, Shea Stadium, Andre. You know, we were kids back then. We were only 7, 8, 9 years old watching it because WWF was called, and Fitz Sr. ran it, and he was right. And that was the show we got growing up. So we were always big fans of it. And when I was 16, I used to run bus trips down to the Spectrum to see, you know, the main event. So like 40, 50 people. My mom would sign off, and we'd drink it on there. And, you know, yeah, it was a crazy time. And we saw Bruno against Superstar was one of the matches we saw. But then it's weird, you know, all the years later that we were, you know, main eventing as the world champions at the Spectrum, and had our parents there watching. So it's a good turnaround of, you know, from being a kid watching it to actually going to the same building that used to watch, you know, superstar Billy Graham and Jimmy Superfly Snuka and that. So, yeah, it's been pretty crazy.
Awesome. So one of the things you guys are most famous for in the ring was the pit stop. When one of you would take the arm and the end of another opponent, put it under the armpit of the other. Is there anybody that didn't like taking the move and said, no, I'm not doing it, and did you force them to do it in the ring?
Never.
Never?
Never. And that was brought on to us by Adrian Adonis.
Okay.
The one that said, your name's the Nasty Boy. You know, you're not doing nothing nasty. You're not gouging somebody's eyeball out. You know, what about taking somebody's face and sticking it in the other's armpit? I mean, it's like, well, that's a good move, you know. So that's how we got started. And Viper kind of honed us in on doing it. So, you know, Roddy was like, you know, we had a lot of mentors. You know, Kurt Hennings, one of the big ones, was Schnucka.
Microphone closer to your mouth.
Schnucka and just, you know, Kurt Hennig was a great one, but you're talking about old timers like Schnucka, and then there's Adrian Adonis and Cowboy Bob Orton, and just Roddy Piper, and just, you know, guys like that, Ric Flair and the Hulk Hogan. We got taught by them guys. So, which are one of some of the greatest wrestlers of all time. And, you know, you're learning when you're a young kid by some of the greatest wrestlers. And at that time, they were in their prime and doing their thing. And we were learning off them every day. This was, you know, middle 80s, you know, all the way up to, you know, we're finally retired here. But, yeah, a long time. We got trained by a lot of good, great wrestlers, you know. I went through different generations, so the 80s, 90s, 2000s, and, you know, for some reason that late 80s and 90s, I don't know, the fans just come up with people like me and Sag and Hacksaw and Jake and, you know, just that era of guys, the Hulkster and Macho Man. I don't know, it has a place in the people's hearts that they want to show their kids who they used to watch, and it was quite the time, that was one hell of an era right there. You know, so, and Andre was in there also, so, you know, a lot of British Bulldogs. So you're talking about a lot of great, you know, not only tag teams, but great wrestlers also.
One thing that you guys also remember from you guys from WCW was the wild brawls that you used to have with things like Harlem Heat, Public Enemy, Cactus Jack and Max Payne. I even saw a match in WWF against the Head Shrinkers on Raw that you guys ended up in the concession stands. You started with mustard and everything. Do you have any memories from those matches?
Well, that match, there was a wicked snowstorm. It was one of the first Raws ever. And everybody's flight got canceled. Somehow, me and Knobs and Sammy and Rikishi ended up making it to the building on a different flight or something like that. And it was in Poughkeepsie, one of the first Raws ever taped along that line, and we did the others. Some of them, it was called the Manhattan Center in Manhattan. And
What would be called the Manhattan Center if it wasn't in Manhattan?
It was a Manhattan Center, but it was in Denver.
Okay, cool. Gotcha.
So we're like, what do we gotta put some time in, do whatever you want. That's all they had to tell us. And with Sammy's office son, you know, Rikishi and his sons are on TV now.
Yeah.
But they were the Islanders or whatever.
Head Shrinkers.
Head Shrinkers. And we just went crazy, you know. So I think I hit during that match, we went all over the place. And it was a wild melee, which we fit right into. We just started in the ring, went over it. Somehow I ended up in this big pot. And I think I hit Sammy with it. So in the meantime, I went and grabbed him from behind. He grabbed the pot, his back's to me. He went over it like this with the pot with both hands and plunked me on the back of the head. All of a sudden, blood's gushing down my face and the back of my head. There was a big cut in the back of my head. We just kept wrestling. But I don't know what number Raw. It was one of the in the beginning there.
Yeah, 30.
I know I had to go that night to get stitches in the hospital. That's all I remember. But that's how stuff rolls. There's a snowstorm outside, the planes. You know what I mean? You're on a hectic schedule. We just went with it.
Cool. And And yeah, of course, in WCW, you had some of those wild brawls against our Elite. And what would you think your favorite opponents down in WCW to fight?
The what?
Your best opponent in WCW to fight?
WCW, when we got there, which we had to reset ourselves, and some of the funnest and best as heels was against Marcus Bagwell and Too Cold Scorpio, which were two good guys, really good
But the
workers.
first one was the Steiners. So,
Well,
first one in WCW. He's asking about WCW tag teams. How much
They were just like you.
he said we went back. He just talked about WWF.
I thought he was talking about this.
Here, let him tell you. You talking about the first time we were in WCW or the second?
Well, I could be
You
both.
started WWF, he said when we went back.
Yeah.
So you tell him what you want.
On WCW, the real good team was the Steiners, and they were hurting people. They put us together, and we just clicked. So that's what got us to the WWF. Then when we went back, we were wrestling, Marcus and them, and we won the belts and all that. But when we were there, Marcus and Too Cold weren't even a team yet.
Okay.
The Steiners were the big, put it this way, the people loved the Steiners, the way they used to wrestle, and they were real wrestlers from Michigan that could kick anybody's butts. And the stuff they did looked real because it was real. But we had great matches with them because we were barroom fighters anyway. So when we went at it, people knew it, but we were good friends with them, so we had great matches. But then when we came back, like he was telling us, we did have good matches with Too Cold and Marcus, but Marcus was just beginning. Too Cold had already wrestled in Japan, and we actually had to teach them. They were put together as a tag, and Marcus didn't know nothing, at the time. And we got kind of got Harlem Heat like that too. They were young. Sid brought them in. Remember about Harlem Heat, and we were trying to teach them. They weren't to the level yet, so we were actually teaching some of the younger guys that turned out to be great, awesome wrestlers at the time. You know what I mean?
When we wrestled, what propelled us to go to the wrestler head trick was we're going backwards now, what he's talking about.
Yeah.
When started WCW, went to WWE, that's where we wrestled the Raw that you were talking about. When we went back, then after we wrestled Paul Orndorff and Paul Roma were a team, Marcus and Too Cold, then Steve Regal and Bobby Eaton were the Blue Bloods, teams like that. We wrestled in great six-mans, me, Knobs, and Rick Rude against Sting, Arn, and Flair. Arn, Flair, and Steamboat. Me, Knobs, and Rick Rude. Then we wrestled Davey Boy. Then we wrestled Davey Boy and Sting. We wrestled Hawk and Sting. We wrestled the six-man of them against us and Rude. And Vader, I think. So there was all kind of stuff we were throwing in there when we went back, a mixture of teams.
Cool. And of course, in the 80s and 90s, there was lots of multiple ribs put on you guys and against everybody else that was there. Do you have a favorite rib that comes to mind?
Well, there was a Europe tour, and Ric Flair woke up without eyebrows. I didn't do that, but
He got played. That's his thing. Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff that never made a good kid, so no matter how much, and that was taught by Mr. Fuji.
Yeah.
Because Mr. Fuji taught Kurt Hennig back in the early 80s and about all the, you're talking about serious script, putting, guys put boots on fire and stuff like that. So, yes, there were a lot of big time jokesters. And then we got kind of pinpointed in that realm because we were with the Rockers and they were doing stuff back in the 80s. But we got blamed for a lot of stuff we didn't even do. Back in WWE days, Owen was pulling a lot of ribs, but he was silent. No one would think Owen was pulling the ribs. But we got blamed for every one of us and the Rockers all the time. And Kurt was always involved. But Kurt was smooth enough to get himself out of it. Was passed the blame on to us. So a lot of ribs we took the hell for, but we actually didn't do them. But then again, we did do a lot of them, so you'll never know. See, that's the thing. There's so much to write a book on that. Which ribs first and then nasty was actually, did they almost burn down that hotel in Japan with Lord Regal? That one could be true.
Do you guys have any regrets about your wrestling career?
None.
You, Brian? No?
No. None at all. No, the only thing was when we worked, the only angle, you know, we were supposed to win the belts back WrestleMania 9, and Brutus was crying to Hulk because he broke and needed money or whatever. You know, with 1 month to go, we were going to face them. We were in England, and all of a sudden Mike and Ted were a day late, but Mike was good friends of ours. He told us right away, he says, hey man, they pulled an audible and we're going to wrestle. I thought it was bullshit. They were going to wrestle Hulk and, you know, Beeford, and it wasn't Beeford. I know Ted loved it because he's wrestling Hulk, and the payday's going to be super, super big, you know? So I could see it on a business standpoint, that, you know, but Mike was, you know, he's a good friend of ours and told us, and, you know, kind of teed us off. He worked so hard, like, almost like Cody Rhodes saying he finished the story. Well, that's what you do. You do a storyline until it finally ends up into a big schmoz, and we never had that big schmoz off with money because after, you know, they won the belts. I don't even know who ever beat Hulk and Beaver for the belts. Who beat them?
I think they didn't win the belt. They got DQ.
They won the belts that day. But who did they lose the belts to? We were out there after. And I know I was in the back. I know what happened because I was screaming. They should just send Sean out there and give him all the fucking belts. That's how mad I was. Excuse my language, but I know who won the belts. But they were the champs at the time. But I don't remember. I don't know if they relinquished them and then they had a tag tournament because we left only a couple months after that. We were gone. We were back. Dusty already had called us and we headed back to WCW. You know. Because we were kind of pissed off about the whole situation. Because, you know, it's like a circle. You go, and then you have the time, you build yourself back up again, and you're right there. So that means you're going all the way around again. And at the time, WCW had some real good stroke to it. And plus, you were on a contract like a football player. So if you got hurt, you actually rehab your injury and get well. But in WWF, if you didn't wrestle, you didn't get paid. So you wrestled her. If your arm was hanging off, you'd be out there in the ring wrestling. So, but you always had the locker room doctors and lawyers that gave you advice. So we were good. There's no complaints. But a lot of fun. Well, it definitely was. I mean, they say the difference between WWF, but you know, the goal as a pro wrestler, whoever it is getting into business, your goal should be one day, and if you could, go for a championship, go to WrestleMania, and go in a championship match should be your ultimate dream. Mm-hmm. But just being in a WrestleMania should be your goal as a pro wrestler because it is the Super Bowl of wrestling. We were in number 7 and 8, now we're up to number 40, so that's a long time ago. But yeah, it's quite this spectacular thing now, you know. And we were in '92, Wembley Stadium. That was, I think, one of the WrestleMania 8 was at the RCA Dome, but Wembley was more people than that. That was 94,000. We were the opening match with me, him, and Shock against the Bushwhackers and Hacksaw. Mm-hmm. And that's another good spot to have, is the opening match, because they didn't see nothing. You had to be the first one out there. I mean, you had 94,000 English people from England yelling USA, USA. So, you know, Axel was over and everybody loved the Bushwhackers. So, you know, that was a good match. But that was one of the best matches we had you know, and had fun at. You know, it was a good time. So,
perfect. So there's a question from the crowd I heard. So whoever has a question for the Nasty Boys, come right up.
Well, so guys, my question today is, at the time, beginning of the 90s, where you were in WWF, they were, the tag team division was as its peak. There was a lot of good tag team, like yourself, like the Bushwhackers, the Beverly Brothers, the Hart Foundation, Demolition, we can name a lot of tag team. They were building. So you fight normally them all. So my question is, which tag team or tag teams you had the most fun with to work with? That's one question. And that was your tag team winning tag team belt, yes.
They were over. The big fans loved the Hart Foundation. They were a great team to go after. Plus, Jimmy Hart used to manage them, so there was more hate there because Jimmy screwed them to come with us. So it was a match between them, and the match was really awesome. Brett had told us on different occasions that's one of his favorite tag team matches he ever had with us, and he lost the belts. It wasn't even when he won them, but they were one of the greatest tag teams. But there were so many of them there at the time. Power and Glory was there. Yes. Even Demolition was there, but
the Warriors.
It was and they had also
Natural Disaster.
You had Haku and Haku. I think Haku and Bar. Yeah. So there were so many, and in the different managers they had. At the time, they had so many different managers, from Jimmy Hart to Slick. You had Freddie Blas, who was still managing Bobby the Brain Heenan. I mean, there were so many different kind of characters. It was really a good time to be, in the sport, and a lot of good. Everybody wanted to be in the WWF. This WCW still was that company that was, trying to make it a WWF spot. So, but it really was. But they get back that way now, which is good. I see the different tag teams showing up as tag teams. They're not just putting guys together. And for a while, that's what they were doing. So, but there's an art in being a tag team wrestler, just like there is a singles wrestler. So, so to be considered one of the best, and people coming up is real honor for us. You know what I mean? So, but thank you for the question. Thanks for coming out.
You're welcome.
Your girlfriend there.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I think she's got a question.
Okay,
French question.
À quel 50 ans vous allez rencontrer Jacques Rougeau?
Can you translate for her?
I heard Jacques
À quelle
Rougeau.
circonstance que vous avez connu Jacques Rougeau?
Oh, okay. How did you guys meet for the first time, Jacques Rougeau?
But when he came, did we meet? Were him and Raymond a team yet? No, they weren't. Him and Raymond were. Raymond went to do all the French translation for all the pay-per-views that would come on the TVs that would come up to Quebec and French Canada. And Jacques moved into that Mountie thing. And Patty, somebody saw a thing there, the combination of heat. So we did a lot of six-mans with Jacques.
Can you make up your own song?
What's that? Yeah, I can't sing that right now. Yeah, we sang a song. But I can't now, there's some kids here. But anyway, so me and Ops and the Mountie were in a lot of different matches together with comments. Sometimes it was Roddy and the Bushwhackers and some six-mans and different stuff like that. Some eight-mans for, what was that, the Survivor Series stuff with different, so that's how we met Jacques. And so, well, he was our partner in a lot of stuff, And he came down, some maniac up here in Montreal built him some type of shot stick, as like a zapper. But it had a big 12-volt battery in it. He wanted to go shop to beat some guys in the ring, and I think it would have killed him. They wouldn't let him put the battery in and take it nowhere, Because he put it in there for our interviews, and go, and the big lightning bolts would come out of the thing. Like, who made that? It would kill an elephant, John. I don't care. I'm going to shock somebody. What? Don't shock us with it, please. So that's the Mountie. Then we wrote a song.
But he always said, he always wedged himself in that. He always had a good opponent. So when we were in the six-man, like if we're wrestling the Bushwhackers or the Road Warriors, that third man was always somebody good. Because Jacques was usually our other partner that Jimmy Hart managed him. So there was always guys, he had a feud going with the Boss Man. He had a feud going with Bret Hart. He had a feud going, yeah.
That's one of the funniest is, so Bret came up with this scheme, I guess, that they did in Calgary. It's called you wrestled, and then you would take the microphone, and the guy had to say, I quit. So Jacques and Bret were wrestling these I quit matches. And we did 6-mans to set it up. It was Bret Hart, the Bushwhackers, and me, Knobs, and Jacques. And then it came to a head, I think, in New Haven, Connecticut or something, on a TV. And me and Knobs and Davey Boy saw this big 4-foot, 5-foot trophy. And this is going to go to the winner of the no quit match. So Davey Boy went, and he knows he was going to go. You know, probably Bret was talking about this big trophy and all this stuff. Davey Boy went and took all the screws out of the trophy. So it was this big, tall thing, the Empire State Building. Like, who's getting it? And Bret was all proud of this trophy. And then he's like, so you get the microphone, do you give up? And Mountie would put the microphone down, and Bret would go, no. And then they fight some more. You know, finally, the Mountie gives up. Now there goes the trophy, and me and Knobs were watching. Davey Boy was twiddling the thing around, you know, messing with it. And by the Bret went like this, the trophy, the thing fell apart on it. And Bret's going, which one of you son of bitches messed with my trophy? He was all proud of this big trophy. It was taller than a person. You know, they brought the trophy out. It was like wobbly. Davey Boy was on his knees, pissing his pants. You know, of course, Bret comes up. You guys touch my trophy. I'm like, what? You got blamed for every damn thing, you know? So Jock was involved. I don't quit.
Anybody else have a question for Ben, en fait, une grande toile sur Jean Bourgeois avec son joystick, il aimait taper le monde avec l'affaire électrique.
Jock wanted to electrocute people.
Ouais, il électrocute tout le monde, Jean Bourgeois, lui.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
thank you.
She wanted to hear it from you and not from her ugly boyfriend.
Oh, I see a match. Knobs is making a match in Montreal.
You got yourself a girlfriend now.
And here's a Montreal wiseacre that comes with a nasty boy event with a Road Warrior shirt.
He's got a Road Warrior shirt on that wasn't washed in about 20 fucking years. Thanks for dressing up for us, brother. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
He wearing a fucking Road Warriors jersey from 1965.
That thing was wrapped around a leaky pipe in the basement. He went down and untied it.
Heard a story about you, Jerry, I think, and
not to bring into your story, but what the hell did that damn hat do?
This is Johnny Depp.
Benin Julius.
He looks like Louis the Lilac. So you heard some story.
You kicked Ken Shamrock's butt in a hotel room.
That was not my fault. He caused all that.
Really, Brian?
Yes, he caused it all.
I was sleeping.
Yeah. So I didn't do anything, but he did. He was unconscious, but he caused all that. Now I'm still. You know, so I ended up in a big fight because of him.
And apparently, you kick his ass, right?
Yes, I did.
S'il vous plaît aussi, ils font des blagues là, par les niveaux personnels si font des commentaires là, en anglais sur vous autres. Là. Anybody else has a question for Brian or Gary? In the meantime, I'm going to ask another question.
Oh, there's a question.
Perfect. Bert has a question.
I'm curious.
Here comes Pat's boyfriend.
He told me I was not his son.
Hey,
That's not what he told me, brother.
Hey, he didn't win that Pulitzer Prize on his standing up. He won it on his knees.
On a more serious note, I'm just curious to know.
Don't change the subject. You look comfortable holding that microphone.
He says it's just like that. I'm actually curious what are you feeling after the big Cody Rhodes win at WrestleMania, making basically the #1 guy in the business. I know he's part of your family, so it must be something very special at this point.
Hey, just like we felt about Dewey, that's what you call The Rock. Knowing him as a kid and the dues that he paid. You know, we met him in Tennessee. We babysat him when Rocky came into Tennessee. They lived above us in an apartment. And any second, third generation wrestler, whether it be anybody we know, from Mike Rotundo's kids to Randy Orton to all the kids, what dues they paid in the stripes and struggles growing up in the wrestling business. And Cody did that too, being the son of Dusty Rhodes, the ups and downs as a young kid, and then wanting to actually go into the wrestling business also. And I actually thought, me and Knobs, we wanted to talk to Cody, like, I know your dad would never walk away from the WWE at the time. He had the balls though to leave. And they started that Bullet Club thing, and it took off because Mark Cuban on Access TV brought Japanese wrestling to the American eye. We knew what went on in Japan. The American public never did. Almost like the day Eddie Guerrero called me, we got back from a tour of Japan. And Eddie called me and said, Sags, he was moved to Tampa at the time. Well, he was still out in Texas. He goes, is there any chance you could put a word for me in to come in WCW? I said, Eddie, we just got back to Japan with him, Chris Benoit, in our bar, which was Saggy Bar's son, the juicer or whatever. And we were on a tour of Japan with him. So I get home, Eddie calls me. I go, definitely. Me and Knobs love you. We wrestled Hector Mondo in Chago in the AWA and in Tennessee. I said, I'm leaving tomorrow to go to Center Stage. I walk into Center Stage where we tape television from Turner. Who's right next to the ring? Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, and Kevin Sullivan going over TV. I go, hey, you guys, and they, hey, welcome back from Japan, the whole deal. I said, we talked a little bit. I said, listen, I just want to run something by you. I was over, I know you know Benoit because he was here a little bit with Davey Roy. We did a thing, and but I was just in Japan with him and Eddie Guerrero. And Eddie asked me, I said, Kevin, when you think about bringing him in? And Kevin goes, you know what? I've been thinking of something. We're going to start this new show called Nitro and go head to head with, now it's Arn, Kevin, and Ric Flair. They're saying we're going to start this new show. We're seeing they're bringing in a lot of the Mexican lucha wrestlers so they don't turn the channel between the big matches. So here comes Eddie. Not about Eddie Guerrero, but Eddie got in. Now, but this is about the same thing with Cody and what happened. Now, what happens is, here they're just brought in as fill-in matches, right? Here, Americans, the public never seen what was the match in Mexico, the lucha style wrestling. Now, all of a sudden, everybody's wrestling lucha style, and it's huge. Now these guys are the stars, you know what I mean? So what happened was that Kenny Omega, Cody, that whole crew, there's a tag team in there, the two guys, the Young Bucks, they all come in. And now Mark Cuban puts Japanese wrestling. We went to Japan. We were huge over there. We knew what it was about. But Americans' eyes in America and Canada never saw that. But once they saw it, now all the guys in wrestling, everybody now, even to this day, are wrestling Japanese style matches across the board. It got over the same way. So out of that, they got over and took their deal and started their own, basically helped start the AEW, which became the first company ever to ever be able to take the place of WCW, which the wrestling business was in dire need of a second company. TNA never filled that spot. They're always there as a company, but never the huge second company. The true second company is AEW, okay? And Cody was one of the founders of it. And then out of that fame, to have the balls and come back as one of the biggest contracts ever signed, and go back to WWE and become what he did, it's amazing. And then, you know, the pinnacle of all that was just seen on this last WrestleMania. So everybody, the whole family, you know, I was just at our family had a wedding. Cody didn't go with it. He went back home after the thing, but we all, you know, I was with Cody's mom, like my wife's sister, Michelle. We talked all about it. I told her, you know, to even tell them what I thought, different to a private talk and different things like that. But we're very proud of it because, I mean, to reach the echelon of that, the wrestling business is like, at least his dad would be, he's like Dusty Reborn in that not many guys make it to that level. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You know, and I feel the same way. You want somebody like that to make all that money and do that, because almost like with Dewey, we call him Dewey, Dwayne The Rock, because we were there when they had barely any food and lived in a small apartment, and Rocky was bringing family, him and his mom, into town to town or territory to territory, and the dues he paid, and knowing how to struggle. I hope they all make $50 billion, you know, because of knowing what they went through as young kids.
Well, before Sag was ever married to Laura, which is Michelle's, you know, their sisters, you know, Dusty was our mentor in Florida, and Dustin came in, and he was a kid. Nobody gives Dustin his props. Give Dustin his props. Hey, it's Gold Dust. He didn't want to be Gold Dust, but he went with it just like Dustin didn't want to wear the polka dots, but he made it work. That's a trait from Dusty.
Yeah.
You know, Dusty beat through all the, you know, with the Harley races and the Ric Flairs and all that stuff, and way back in the day, you know, Dusty was an ultimate genius in this business. I mean, even Hulk says it, even Rick says it. So to get that trait inside you, but Dustin, I had the same kind of respect for Dustin. I mean, he's still doing top-notch work in AEW. I mean, he don't want to go nowhere else. He don't want to go back up in that thing.
Me and him took Dustin. Dusty had me and him. He glued Dustin and me and him in Florida, and we did all kind of matches. But then it carried on to WCW. Me and Dustin to get Dustin over. Dustin, Dusty, me and Knobs, tag, all that kind of stuff you see on
the War Games.
Yeah,
all that kind of natural at that time.
And at that time,
Cody gave him that name.
Cody was only this big.
Yeah.
I remember him coming with our toy. You know, my Nasty Boy is my favorite. Cody was little.
And through all the years, when Dusty was young, you know, he used to be in the back, and he wasn't old enough to go watch Willie Nelson. So they became good friends after Dusty made it big and became really close friends. So he passed the torch to us, and he got us off early in Sarasota. And me, him, and Dusty were first match and second match. We got in our car and we hit Willie up in Clearwater, and the bus was pulling out. And I stopped the bus, banged the door, he opened the door, and I said, "Hey, Dusty, we have Dusty Rhodes' son here, and Dusty left us to come here early to meet you." And Willie told us to come on the bus. Pull the bus back up. We were on Willie's bus till about 5 in the morning, and we damn sure were smoking, and we've been good friends ever since. I'm still good friends with Willie Nelson, and thanks to Dusty Rhodes. I mean, he's the one that passed the torch to us, and me and Willie hit it off, and I'm still friends with Willie today. You know, and what an icon he is. But that's the kind of people Dusty would hang out with. Dusty get right on the stage with Willie and a beer and start singing. You know.
Fantastic. Thank you.
So there's always a big debate amongst wrestling fans who's the best tag team of all time. In your opinion, guys, if you give me a top 3 or top 5,
Road Warriors.
Warriors, perfect.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can't. They transcended the business. We know them, so shut up. But they were, you know, they were recognizable. Everybody recognized them, and they were like a shocking stunner. But right up there, I put the Bulldogs, the Steiners, the Hart Foundation. There's so many you can put up there, but the Road Warriors always stand out for me. I don't know if Zach thinks any different, but you know, and there were some younger when we were just growing up, like the Tony Greaves and the Larry Zbyskos, but The Road Warriors just had that edge, and they were beating guys in 2 minutes. That you never saw that. You know, Crusher and the Brutish, and nobody pressed slammed us. And at the time, them guys were young and they were all strong. And they were all from Minnesota together. They were pressing the Crusher and the Brutish. Didn't have a standing chance against, you know, Mike and Joe. Hawk and Animal were just you know, badass, and they both could fight, especially Hawk. Hawk was a true badass. You know what I mean? In actually growing up. Besides being in pro wrestling, he can fight. You know, so that gives you a good stamp of approval too.
Perfect. What about the Beverly Brothers? This guy loves the Beverly Brothers.
Yeah, the guys too. They're from Minnesota. Wayne Bloom's a good friend of ours, and Mike Enos. They both were trained good. You know, I don't know why they didn't make it to their biggest run, I think, was in AWA when they were a Minnesota Wrecking Crew. But when they got to WWE, they didn't get I don't know, maybe a full backing by them, but they never really got over as the Beverly Brothers that big. But when they were the Wrecking Crew, they got over pretty good. I think was Ole managing them then. I'm not sure if Ole might have managed them.
Possible, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, they both could wrestle. They both were all trained by the guy who trained us, Brad Riggins, in Vern Gagne's camp, and they all started there in Vern's camp. They're all Minnesota boys, so yeah, they were good too, you know. But we didn't wrestle. We didn't have that many matches. We didn't really have no kind of angle with them. We wrestled them a bunch of times, but they were with us at first, and when we were babyface, we were against them. But we always had good matches with them because when you know people like that, you have better matches, and you don't know what somebody else. Like we get trusted rockers with our life, Sean and Marty, because we used to live with them. We grew up in the business together with them. We were in Tennessee together with them. You know, we were together for about at least 10 years before we ever went back to WCW with Sean and Marty.
You guys were at a cup of coffee in the NWO with Hulk Hogan, amongst others. Why didn't it last much longer? Because I thought you had like a 3-week thing with them. You were at the hotel or something like that. How come it didn't go further than that?
With a cup of coffee, what?
Cup of coffee with the NWO.
Which is a cup of coffee?
Like a short amount of time.
We were doing the NWO.
Fucking want to be in the NWO.
You didn't want to be
that was all put on us.
Yeah,
we didn't want no part of it.
We didn't want no part of it.
They came in talking bullshit, and right away I came in laughing. I made it. Scott and Kevin didn't like that. We knew Scott for a long time. Right there, they came down with some animosity, and he's had a big lecture in front of all the boys in the locker room. Me and him and Hax were out smoking a joint, and we didn't know we missed the meeting. Everybody was in there having a meeting, and I said, "What's going on?" And Kevin and Scott were giving this big speech, like, because they came from the WWF and now they're back in WCW, that they were kind of better than everybody else. You got Ric Flair in the room, you got Sting in the room, you got Lex Luger, you got some of the top stars in WCW. They weren't belittling them, but the way they came off was kind of like, hey, we came down here to save this place. You know, it kind of rubbed me and him the wrong way. Like, I laughed at it and walked out of the locker room, but, you know, we were never part of being there, so I think me being Hulk's friend at the time, that was one of our main goals. We wanted to be against it. At the time, they didn't have an angle for the other guys. It was just the NWO, and the NWO trying to turn baby faces. So now you got a team, the outsiders that are kind of like baby faces and heels. How are you supposed to wrestle against a guy like that? You know, they're in between, and they wouldn't really be baby faces, but they're supposed to be heels. You know, so it was kind of, you know, there was only one person really going against the whole gang, and that was Sting. You know, but Lex and everybody, it seemed like everybody changed over to be NWO then, so, you know, it was screwed up for a while. Then they can say, well, the ratings and the rating wars, and yeah, okay, and yeah, Vince McMahon, who almost beating Rolls for a lot of business. Who's out of business now? It took them 4 years. While they were now making, or they had never made money, they were making $100 million a year, and to go from that to losing, that's a screw up. Yeah. So that screw up comes directly to Eric Bischoff, because he was supposed to be running the whole damn thing, you know? So it just shows you the greed and the power and the politics and stuff that happens when you're in different positions. You know what I mean? Because we know Eric, when he was just selling, he was a meat salesman trying to get in the business and hanging around AWA, and we were already in the business 2-3 years, and then he got in Minnesota, you know, like an announcer type, and then he got that job in WCW, and he worked his way up. So you can't give no props to Eric because he built himself up to being the main boss there at WCW. You know what I mean? And,
yeah.
But like I said, if we would have known that our contract was almost up, we didn't know Scott and Kevin were coming in. If they would have said they were coming in, me and Zach would know, well, they're coming in, they're going to be heels, top heels. At the time, we were in a good spot there. So if we would have known it, we probably would have took the thing and jumped back up and, you know, jumped back in with Sean again, because that was the deal back in the day. You run a place out to when you're there for 3-4 years. Now it's time to move somewhere, get out of the company, and leave about 3 or 4 years, and then go back again. Then you're bigger than ever because then you're back in the WWE. So that was our main plan, but then it never happened.
Yeah. So my last question for you guys would be: what do you think is your legacy in the pro wrestling business?
I don't know if it's a legacy, but timing is everything. In the world of tag team wrestling, we got to wrestle the best tag teams that were ever on the face of the earth, all of them, and do something with them, or wrestle them, or be part of it, the greatest teams, and be around the greatest wrestlers, from the Pipers and the Snookers and the Machos and the guys that, you know, broke through, all the best. And that includes Calgary, Toronto, and Montreal, and the United States, everywhere. And the Japanese got to wrestle the best of the best. I mean, when we were very young in 1988, Dory Funk got us booked through Mike Graham to go to Japan to the tag team tournament. We get there, young kids, never been to Japan. You're there for 30 days. Small hotel rooms, never been, didn't, know the food or the thing, or learned to love it. But in that time, to go somewhere as 2 young kids to tag team and wrestle the British Bulldogs, Stan Hansen, the Great Tenaroo, Abdullah the Butcher and Tiger Jet Singh, Terry Gordy and Dr. Death, the Irwin brothers, and Doug Furness was with a Quebecer, was it? Phil. And he was a great worker. Do you guys know him?
Yeah.
We got to be friends with him, and I never gained respect for him. We were friends, but I really gained respect for him when they took him and put him in to wrestle the Giant Baba.
Oh.
And that is an easy feat, because it wasn't easy to wrestle like an Andre the Giant until I watched Bob Orton work with Andre the Giant. Bob Orton was a great worker. And to watch him work with Andre was like magic. How was he doing that? You know what I mean? He would work around him because he was a giant. Man, how he did it. That's how, what was his full name? Phil Lafont. And him and Doug Furness were a team. I think it was Can-Am, the Canadian-American connection. Mm-hmm. And they were awesome. We got to work a lot with those guys. Doug Furness was like a powerlifter guy from the U.S., and he was a French-Canadian. And, but like I said, this tag team, they put them together as an American-Canadian connection, but we got to work with them. And then when we got into something where the Giant Baba went into a match, he put Phil against Giant Baba. It's like, oh my God, it's like a dance. That's awesome. So gained tremendous respect for the ability he had to work. I don't know who trained him. I didn't ever see him. I don't think we ever saw him again after that. You know what I mean? I know they think they both have passed. Something happened to Doug Furness. I think something happened to Phil, right? Is Phil?
Danny for sure, yeah. The Furness for sure, yeah.
Is Phil still alive?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Just one point. I think there were actually 2 races called Door of Mine, going back generations.
That's profound.
Yes.
Yes.
That grows faster.
Is Phil still here in Montreal then?
Still alive. Still alive.
Oh, he lives in Calgary? Really? I didn't know. God bless him. Maybe I'll see him someday again. I don't know. But that just something like that, one tour, to be able to wrestle that many great teams. That was, I mean, and then in that style, where, you know, for wrestling for old Japan, Giant Baba, that, you know, that a minimum match there is full speed for 30 minutes. And big guys like Stan Hansen and would go like a madman and never stop. It took us 2 weeks just to get in shape enough to finish the match. And then Dynamite and Davey tested the shit out of us. And Dynamite ripped the shit out of us. Sleep deprivation, keep us up all night. I was drunk 24/7. Then Rip light our hair on fire on the bus and lock our doors shut. And you name it, he did it to us. You know? And it was incredible. So if that could be called that, I don't know, but for some reason we were around the greatest guy. Like most of them are gone now, but we had our career spanned the time when we got to wrestle the greatest teams that'll never be again, and be around some of the greatest wrestlers that all these people know and talk about. All these guys like Andre, who started here, came from France. For some reason, we end up in Paris with Andre, and here comes, we're at the Versailles in Paris, France. We're sitting there, and here comes Andre's aunt up to us and tells us, she stood it down, I go, oh my God, great to meet you. She goes, I want to tell you guys a story about when Andre was young, growing up in Paris. So our family owned a little inn, like a guest house with a bar in it and a restaurant, and people would stay and come. And Andre was only 16, 17. He'd sit in the bar, and we had a little work planned out. And she'd go around and go, well, and this is in France, and anybody from France or even, here, she would go, well, my nephew can drink a bottle of champagne without stopping. And they're like, oh, no, this is impossible. No way. And she'd go, all right, we'll take bets. Go around, everybody would put money on. It's impossible for a human being to drink a bottle of champagne without stopping. She'd collect all the money, table full of money, and Andre, boom, and go, boop, 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 boop. And they go, boop, the money. This would happen once a week. I go, well, let me start laughing. You know what I mean? To be not only drinking with Andre in Paris, but to have his aunt tell us that story, I'll never forget that. Because I know we were watching.
The reason that he was with us and got opened up to us was because of me. I was, me and Tanker got hooked up with Piper, and I don't remember too much.
Oh,
I know that.
I don't. Tell us.
It was in Barcelona. It was the first day, but nice hotel. We wrestled, and afterwards, Piper took me and Undertaker at the hotel. We broke into somebody's wedding in Spain and Barcelona. Don't know who it was. All I remember is I woke up and the phone was around my neck and my room was a wreck, and the damn bus left me, the WWF bus. We just won the championship. I said, oh, I fucked up now. I was screaming. In the airport, nobody spoke English. And they didn't really speak English because all I had was my passport, my credit card. They had tickets. They were flying into one town and driving to another. Well, I went and I was finally found somebody. It was only one flight into that town, and that's why Vince didn't want to take it, plus to get the buses. Here I landed. I drove $167 cab ride, paid it. I come running in the building thinking I'm late, and they weren't even there yet. And then when they came in, I saw I was there. The Alex is already here. And I went out, put a hell of a show on. And all Andre did that day was sit over there and play cribbage, but he was always looking over. And that night at the bar, he told me to come over. And we always called the boss. Yes, boss. And he said, tonight, you drink with me. And I said, yes, boss, whatever you want. So we got a beer, ordered us 2 big beers, and then he says, okay, now we make a toast. I said, okay, boss, what kind of toast? And he says, the toast is, the name of this tour is, don't be a knob. Oh, because back in the old days, it's respect. Hey, you party as much as you want, but you got to make it to the show the next day. You got to be on time. You got to be sober. You got to be ready to wrestle. And, you know, I did that. And then plus our work and who we got trained by. And he took me and Sags under his wing on that trip. That was one of his final European trips. And we met his family and everybody. And it was really, he was real open-armed to us, you know, after that. You know, because we only saw him on occasions because his schedule was getting slack. But that was one of his last European tours. And we felt that it was an honor for him to even do that. But that's why, because having, you know, all them guys like Ric Flair, Dusty, it was all, you know, respect. You know, Harley Race, it was all respect for the business, for everything. And that means a lot to go far away. So if you impress the veterans like that, you were doing something right. So
I got on the bus that morning. I go, where the hell's Knox? And I'm waiting, no Knox. I go, no, it's Rene Goulet. I go, I got to go up and get. Goes, no, you don't. The bus is pulling out. I go, stop. I got to go. I thought he was going to run out any second. Rene goes, you don't go. We need at least one of you guys on the card. You have to come with us. He has to take care of it. I said, no. He wouldn't let me leave the bus. I'm like, oh, I was shitting my pants the whole time. We're fired. Knobs, we left Knobs in Barcelona. We're going to Belgium. You know, how the hell is he going to get there? He don't even speak the language, Spanish, nothing. So I go, oh, I'm sweating. I couldn't sleep in the planes, anything like that. I would go, well, this is it for us. Our career's over now. You know what I mean? It's almost the farther around the world again. They go, I walk in, there he is. And Andre saw, like he said, Andre saw that and totally a whole other respect. He beat us to the town. How do you do that?
And then Flair told that story on Piper's induction speech. Oh, yeah, he said, and you know, he went out with Roddy Piper, and I don't know what he found him. He said, Lanza said, fuck the fat bastard, leave him. We left him. And then I was in the hospital with, you know, Rick makes up the stories to abide us, but there was a time, it wasn't that trip, I don't think, when we went over, and I had an operation on my knee, and Vince said, you just drop the belts to the Road Warriors, SummerSlam, and we'll give you time off. Well, he didn't do that. He sent us right overseas, and after my 3rd match, we were flying to different countries, and my leg blew up like a balloon, and in Birmingham, they took me to the hospital, and they wouldn't let none of these guys see me. Sag, the age was nothing, and they said if he had blood clot and he dies, you know, he might die. That's what they gave them guys, and they wouldn't let nobody up to see me. So in England, it's different over there. The people that help me are nurses. Like they have one that had one on one arm, and he's pushing me in the gurney. It was an old hospital.
At the same time,
what the hell with him? What did they do wrong? He could be end up in the hospital and say, if a blood clot breaks off, it goes in my heart, I'm going to die.
During the same time, he got stabbed in Chicago, almost died. Stabbed with a knife, gutted on the mark. Then his wife ran him over with a car, and he had to go in a helicopter to the emergency room. Then he gets in the hospital in England.
But the guys, when I came back to the building, and so I got out of the hospital, the agents called me in the office and they said, Vince said, take a day or 2 off and relax, and then wrestle on the 3rd time. I almost died and everything, not flying me home. No, take a 1 night rest and you got a travel day. So then get back in the ring and wrestle. That's where it was, so that's what I did. But yeah, you were talking about our legacy. Well, our legacy speaks for itself. For me being this age now, and I still got people coming up me up all over the world saying, you were my childhood, you were this, you were that. They show their kids that are too young now, but because of the WWE Network back in the day, it's kind of changed a little bit now, but they can go and show them that. You guys, the fans, to come up to us and say, "You were my childhood, you were, you know, hey man, we must have did something right, and our legacy must be something strong because look at all the people that came out. I mean, we were around all day today, and there's just been calls and everybody from Montreal. Like, they're always fantastic fans. So I thank you, the fans. Thank
you. I gotta end this session. I did this on a podcast today and tell this one last funny story about, and this deals directly with Montreal. So, we were coming to Montreal time back in our WWF days, and we get to Montreal in the locker rooms, Gino Bravo, Gino Brito, Mosca, Rick Martel, the Rougeaus, everybody, all the French Canadian guys, Frenchie Martin, all of us, and you know, going to Japan. You learn, they tell you when you meet somebody, you say, domo arigato. So I knew that. So they're all talking French, I don't understand. Like you guys are talking, I don't understand. So I said to Jacques and Dino, and I said, hey, well, so if I was in Pat Patterson, because Pat wasn't there at the time. So I said, well, when you welcome somebody, we come to Montreal all the time, how do you say, like we say, domo arigato, how do you say hello? And they're like looking at us and they go, well, when you walk in and see any French Canadian, you just go and say, tabernac. I said, okay, so it goes like this. I said, tabernac. They said, that's it. So every time I come into Canada, Montreal, I go, tabernac. They go, I'm looking for the people are looking at me like, what's wrong with that guy? And then I started saying it to Pat, because Pat was in the locker room. Pat, tabernac, how are you? And he was like, what? What's wrong with it? And I'm like, so I did this for 20 years, coming in with the French Canadian tabernac, until these guys. I didn't. So finally, somebody said, you know, you're saying a bad word. I'm like, what? I would no, that's hello. No, it isn't. I said, that means hello. No, it don't. I go, those son of a bitches. Yeah, so I would say tab. I go tabernac, and he look, I would look, what? I go, you wouldn't ever say no. They're like, well, how are you doing? I go, maybe Pat don't like me. I don't know. I was telling everybody this bad word, and these guys told me. So when we first met them, I told, so every time I email or main guy over here, the fire-breathing asshole from Canada, I always end it in tabernac. So everybody in the room, tabernac.
Hey, what I say about the people and everything, it goes on about all these guys always say the Mount Rushmore and that. Well, when you're friends, we got, Dusty's not here no more, who is a personal friend of ours, but you got Hulk Hogan, you got Ric Flair, you got Bret Hart, you got Stone Cold Steve Austin, and you know, just all the greats of the greats, and you still talk to them on a regular basis, and you still have that kind of connection because we're all a big professional wrestling family. That means something to me and Saz, because them are some of the greatest wrestlers they put on the Mount Rushmore, including The Rock, who we babysitted. But to have them guys and still being our friends and have nothing bad, and if you ask any one of them, from Hulkster to Stone Cold to Bret Hart to good old Ric Flair, they'll all have a good nasty story for you. That's for damn sure.
A lot of people steal our stories.